Have you ever noticed something strange about people? They don't miss you when you're there, they don't value you when you're present, they don't realize what you meant to them until you're gone. Only after you stop calling, only after you disappear, only after they can no longer reach you. Suddenly they remember, suddenly they care, suddenly you matter. And this isn't coincidence, it isn't fate, it isn't love magically waking up. It's psychology, dark psychology. The human mind has a disturbing tendency to ignore what it has and obsess over what it loses. People are wired to undervalue presence and overvalue absence. And once you understand this, you'll never look at relationships, friendships, or loyalty the same way again. This video will explain why people only miss you after you're gone. Not from a romantic point of view, but from a psychological one. And by the end, you'll understand why being available too long can quietly erase your value, and why walking away often does the opposite. Stay until the end, because this truth isn't comforting, but it's powerful. The first psychological reason people don't miss you until you're gone is something called habituation. The human brain adapts frighteningly fast. When something is always available, the brain stops registering it as valuable. Not because it isn't important, but because it no longer feels new, urgent, or at risk of being lost. Your presence becomes background noise. You answering every call, you always forgiving, you always being there. At first, it feels appreciated. Over time, it becomes expected. And once something is expected, the emotional response disappears. Dark psychology reveals that the mind only assigns value when there is scarcity, when access is limited, when loss becomes possible. That's why absence more than neglect. Neglect still keeps hope alive. Absence kills certainty, and the brain panics. People don't miss you because they suddenly understand your worth. They miss you because your disappearance disrupts their sense of normal, and the brain hates disruption. Another uncomfortable truth is that people confuse your availability with your obligation. When you stay too long in situations where you're underappreciated, the subconscious message you send is this: I will tolerate this. Dark psychology calls this value signaling. People unconsciously measure your worth by how much you're willing to endure without leaving. The more you accept disrespect, emotional neglect, or imbalance, the more your value drops in their perception. Not because they're evil, but because the brain associates boundaries with self-worth. When you finally leave, something snaps. The same behavior that once seemed replaceable suddenly feels significant. The silence becomes louder than your presence ever was. Not because you changed, but because the rules changed. Your absence forces them to confront a version of reality where they no longer have unlimited access to you, and the human mind reacts strongly to revoked access. People also don't miss you while you're there because familiarity kills emotional intensity. When someone knows they can reach you at any moment, there's no emotional urgency, no fear of loss, no reason to reflect. Dark psychology explains that emotional processing often happens after a connection is removed, not while it exists. As long as you're present, the brain postpones appreciation. It assumes there will be time later, time to say thank you, time to do better, time to notice. But when you're gone, the brain is forced to process everything at once. Memories resurface, moments replay, regret amplifies, and suddenly you're missed. Not because you weren't valued before, but because your absence forces emotional clarity. People don't ignore you because you don't matter. They ignore you because they assume you'll always be there. Here's where dark psychology gets even darker. Some people only realize your value when losing you affects them. Not your feelings, not your pain, their comfort. While you were present, you filled a role. Emotional support, attention, stability, validation, convenience. Once you're gone, that role is empty, and now they feel the cost. This is why people often miss what you gave, not who you were. Your presence made their life easier, your absence makes it harder. And the human mind is selfish by design. Loss is registered most strongly when it creates discomfort. That's why apologies come late. That's why messages appear after silence. That's why regret arrives when it's already too late. They didn't realize your importance until the benefit was removed. Another reason people miss you after you're gone is control. As long as you're there, they feel in control of the connection. They decide when to engage, when to pull away, when to respond. Your departure flips the power dynamic. Suddenly they don't have access. Suddenly, they don't get closure. Suddenly, they are uncertain. Dark psychology shows that humans react intensely to loss of control. Not having access to someone who once felt guaranteed creates psychological discomfort. This is why some people miss you, but never reach out. Because it's not about reconnection. It's about the discomfort of no longer being in control. Your absence reminds them that they didn't own the connection. They only borrowed it. There's also the illusion of replaceability. While you're present, people believe they can replace you easily. Another friend, another partner, another version of you. But replacements are theoretical until reality hits. Once you're gone, comparisons begin. And this is where the mind struggles. Because replacements rarely replicate emotional history, shared memories, or the specific way you made someone feel. Dark psychology explains that loss forces comparison, and comparison often leads to regret. Only then do people realize that what felt ordinary was actually unique. But realization delayed is realization wasted. The final reason people miss you only after you're gone is simple and brutal. Distance creates clarity. When you're close, emotions are clouded by routine, ego, and distraction. When you leave, space removes noise. People see patterns they ignored, efforts they took for granted, consistency they assumed would never end. But clarity after loss doesn't reverse consequences. Dark psychology doesn't say people are heartless. It says people are reactive, not reflective. They feel deeply, but often too late. So here's the truth you need to hear. People don't miss you because you left. They miss you because your absence exposed what your presence was silently providing. And this isn't an invitation to disappear, to be valued. It's a reminder that staying where you're unappreciated slowly erases your worth, in their eyes and sometimes in your own. The most powerful thing you can do isn't demand recognition. It's know when to walk away. Because absence isn't punishment, it's revelation. And once someone realizes your value through loss, you're no longer obligated to return. If this made you think, let it sit. Awareness is the first form of power.